We are back. It's Coolbet Canada's podcast, special presentation of the PGA Championship betting preview show. I'm Pat Gregoire, and as always, joined by my friends, Jake Bolin Moss, Andrew Hustler Paterson, and guys, believe it or not, another Masters is here. It feels like, another major is here. It feels like we were just talking about the Masters days ago, but it's crept up on us. We're ready to go. It's an awesome field. It's a great course. As you can see, Hustler is standing by at Southern Hills right now. Huss, how you doing, buddy?
P. Greggy, JBM, let's get after it. I'm fired up. You know, you said it feels like the Masters just a couple days ago. I've been waiting for this tournament. I don't know what it was. The clock, I was expecting it like 2 weeks ago. Of course, we had the Texans. We had a great event last week. Byron Nelson, shout out KH Lee. Yes. God, what a great man he is. Back-to-back champ out of nowhere. But I'll tell you what, this tournament is incredible. It's the best field of the year. It is as stacked as you'll see in any golf tournament on the planet. And I can tell you guys, I've been only to one major. It was at this very golf course, 2007, Tiger Woods winning it. This is an absolute beast, and we've heard all week even guys that haven't played here before, just how impressed they are. And this is a course that, depending on the wind conditions and the weather conditions, can play very, very difficult, or can be in a situation where there's some birdies. So I think this is going to be a fascinating 4 days kicking off tomorrow, and I cannot wait for it.
Jake, before we get to you, Huss, you mentioned you've been to Southern Hills. You've been to a major event before. But you have a pretty awesome story about John Daly at Southern Hills, don't you?
So I'll keep this brief, but we were there for the Thursday and Friday of the event, and we were staying in a town called Pryor, Oklahoma, about 40 minutes outside. So we went there on Thursday, and, like 90% of the course, it seems, follows Tiger Woods, especially at that point. So we kind of figured, let's get out, let's, maybe see the rest of the course, get an opportunity to get up close with a ton of the players, and we did that. I think I saw Angel Cabrera put 3 in the water on a par 3 and take a 10, if I recall correctly. Regardless, we had a great day on the Thursday. We go back to Pryor, and the next day we were going to really focus on watching Tiger Woods. And Tiger Woods had a PM tee time. I think he was teeing off at about 1. Well, Thursday, John Daly shocked everyone and was the clubhouse leader. So Daly also had an afternoon tee time, and they were going off about 10 minutes apart from each other on 1 and 10. So like pretty much every single person at the tournament seemed to be in that area. But what was funny was that we were driving in, and we threw on whatever the local sports radio station is, and the guys are taking calls about the PGA Championship. And it's like 11:15, 11:20 a.m. And this guy calls in and says, "Hey, I just thought I'd let you know. Last night was out with the boys. We went to the bars closed. We figured, well, let's go to the casino." And I guess there's a Native American casino in and around. And he goes, "I just got to tell you guys, I played blackjack with John Daly till 4:45 in the morning last night. What a great guy. Not sure how well he's going to do today, but he was a hell of a lot of fun on the blackjack table last night." So JD, even leading a major, did not want to let that get in the way of him having some fun and winning a few hands on the blackjack table. But of course, Thursday was about JD. The rest of the weekend was about Tiger Woods. And I know we'll be speaking about Mr. Woods as well as we get into the PGA Championship for 2022.
That is incredible.
Only JD.
only JD. That is amazing. Oh my God. Jake, I know you're a Tiger guy. Hustler already mentioned it. Maybe not as much hype surrounding Tiger the last time we were on the stream together, him returning to the Masters. But how about this absolute wagon of a group we're treated to on Thursday and Friday? Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy, and Tiger freaking Woods, all in the same group for 2 days. I know that's got to be your biggest storyline heading into this, isn't it, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be. We get to see Tiger again, first time since the Masters. I think we all had him to make the cut. That was very nice, even money there. And we're getting a pretty good number again this week, minus 118, I think, for Tiger to make the cut. And like you mentioned, Jordan Spieth, who's been in his last 2 starts near perfect. I think he's coming off a second last week at the Byron. He had a playoff win against Cantley 2 starts ago. Obviously, he missed the cut at the Masters, so he's going to be looking to make a big impact here at the PGA. And then Rory, saw what he did in his last major on Sunday. What a performance. Obviously wasn't able to catch Scheffler, but just an incredible performance by him. And I won't be surprised if all three of the guys are in the mix. Hopefully Tiger's in the mix. I think that's more of a heart thing. But yeah, the other two guys I expect to be right up there come the weekend.
Hey, one quick thing on that grouping. And again, I mean, we'll get into this. And I don't spend too much time. I mean, kind of made my bets, most of them earlier in the week before really getting into the weather conditions. But it does seem, depending on who you talk to, there could be a significant advantage for the AM, PM draws as far as the afternoon, morning draws. And of course, the Tiger and the guys go out at 8 in the morning tomorrow and then have a later tee time on Friday. So certainly, I mean, just if you're talking about the cut to make the cut bets, I think there's, a nice little bit of extra information that might help you when it comes to Tiger Woods, or if you're on the fence of a guy that maybe has an earlier tee time as opposed to the afternoon, if you're looking for maybe something that would be a bit of a deal breaker for you.
Well, we know everyone's going to have their eyes locked in those three for the first 2 days, and arguably the best golfer on the planet right now. And I was the only dummy last time on our show that didn't bet him. Scottie Scheffler wins the Masters. He's victorious at Augusta, and he is red hot. Coming into possibly could win his second straight major, entering some really good company as only players to do it. He would keep the Grand Slam alive, but we all know how difficult that is. Huss, I know you already have faith in this because as we heard on the Lock Shop and even heard, months ago, actually, that you were on Scheffler, not only to win the Masters, but you got him to win here. And you probably got a better price than a lot of people have it.
Well, it's funny. We were prepping for this program when we did the Masters, and I was really high on Scheffler. He'd, won me, won a tournament for me at the Dell Match Play. And, listen, I mean, I think he's already pretty much locked up Player of the Year, and we're only one major in with his 4 wins. But I really sort of thought that if he was going to break through, I thought it was most likely going to be at the PGA Championship. But I also thought he had a chance to win the Masters, jumped on that and obviously won. But I knew that there was a good chance that number that we were getting for Scottie Scheffler at the PGA was going to drop considerably. So, yeah, I've got a nice 25-1 on Scheffler for this event, which has pretty much been cut in half. Now, depending on where you look, I got to give Coolbet all the credit. This is part of the reason why before even working with them and with you guys, I was an avid Coolbetter, because the golf odds are just so much superior. I was just comparing DraftKings Sportsbook to Coolbet. And I mean, the number, listen, Scheffler is, I think, at 12. He's 13 at Coolbet. Guys like Cam Smith, 18-1 at DraftKings, 25-1 at Coolbet. It certainly is the place to golf. But yeah, I won't be making an extra bet on Sheff because got a nice 25-1, sort of put the investments into some other guys. But every now and then you get lucky. Sometimes that goes the other way. If a guy has a few bad weeks, you're looking at a 40-1. You're going, why the heck I did that? But when a guy had so much heat going into an event that certainly you knew that he'd be in the mix for it. I mean, his major record, while he hadn't won one, indicated that he would be in and around there on Sunday. I figured it was a good bet to make then. And obviously I've got a much better number right now than is available pretty much anywhere. And we'll see whether he can do it. I mean, it's been a magical season, one of the best we've ever seen at the start. And he's also says that this is his favorite course. So do with that what you will. I think there'll be a lot of people jumping on the favorite in Scottie Scheffler, who's right there with John Rahm at the top of the board.
Well, you mentioned it. Scheffler atop of the board, 13-1. Rahm not too far behind at 14-1. Rory McIlroy is sitting in third at 17-1. Justin Thomas, 19-1. Jordan Spieth and Cantlay as well. Oh, sorry, Jordan Spieth, 20-1. 20-1. Cantlay, Morikawa at 22-1. And then Hideki Matsuyama, last year's Masters winner, at 25-1, and a couple other big names there as well. You can go check those out at Coolbet and to see all our outrights. But we talked about it. We know at least one bet is out there with Scheffler. Jake, we're going to start with you this time. Can you give us maybe your one or two best bets when it comes to the outrights?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us kind of on the same wavelength here. We talked about him already. I'm on Jordan Spieth 20-1. Two great starts in his last two go rounds. He was right there last week in the Byron, and I guess a few weeks ago he pulled off a nice playoff win over Cantlay. So yeah, saw his number at 20-1. Obviously not a great showing at the Masters. I think he missed the cut. But I like Spieth. I like the way he's played. He's had quite the resurgence here in his career. Hasn't won a major since 2017. Wouldn't it be great to see him break through at Southern Hills and win the PGA? I think it'd be awesome. It's the kind of guy I don't know if anyone roots against this guy, Jordan Spieth. I mean, just where he's come from. They had him pinned as the next Tiger, and then obviously the major fall off there for a few years. But he's back and he's playing well, and hopefully he can pull through. So he's my number one. And this is another guy I'm sure we'll get to. I have Patrick Cantlay as well. Just a guy who's been playing great golf. Obviously, I mentioned him in that playoff with Spieth a few weeks back. Yeah, just one of those guys that I think can definitely do it. 22-1. Yeah, those are kind of my short odds ones that I like for outrights.
Who do you have on your outrights? I think Jake maybe mentioned one of those guys as well.
Yeah, Pat Cantlay at 22-1. Listen, I think that Cantlay is going to win a major. And part of the reason, this goes back to the conversation we had about Scheffler and looking earlier in the season as to where he might pop and it be the PGA Championship. The PGA has been a tournament where we've often seen a number of first-time winners, guys finally getting over the hump in this environment. And to me, it is a matter of time before Cantlay does it. And as you mentioned, I mean, it has played quite well so far this year. And really, if you go back over the last couple seasons, it's been one of the most consistent golfers on tour, just waiting to maybe sink a couple more putts or have something, magical happen to get him into the winner's circle. So at 22-1, I think there's value on Patrick Cantlay. I absolutely think that he'll be there contending for it on Sunday afternoon. So I got in on him. And then of the group that's, sort of 25 and under, a guy that we talked a lot about at the Masters and was right there at the end is Cameron Smith. Speaking of guys that are due to pop and actually finally win one of the top four tournaments around, he won the Players. He's right there at the Masters. His major record is right up there with pretty much anybody on tour over the last couple of years. So, and I guess the other thing that I think could be an advantage for the Aussies, and I'll touch on Mark Leishman a little later on, is the fact that it is supposed to be somewhat blustery and quite windy. And on an open course like Southern Hills, the experience playing in windy conditions, which the Aussies have, I think could really be helpful. But Cam Smith's done everything but win a major so far. I think he's very much due to do that. I jumped on him at 25-1. I'm seeing him at some other books as low as 18-1. And the same thing with Colin Morikawa. And listen, Morikawa wasn't really one of my initial picks, but I couldn't help but look at the value at 25-1 right now at Coolbet. That's gone up from, I think, 22 earlier in the week. So a smaller sprinkle, but my two bigger bets of the group of the favorites, if you will, kind of 25 right up to Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay at 22 and Cameron Smith at 25, Pat.
Now, this isn't great podcasting or good television, whatever you want to call it, because I'm on two of the same bets as you guys. I love Cam Smith. I think every time we're on this stream, we're waxing poetically about him and his mullet and how we're dying for him to get it done on the big stage. I think he can get it done here, no doubt. I'm also on Jordan Spieth at 20-1, and insert the GTA. Shit, here we go again, man, because I'm betting Jordan Spieth at a major after a stelling showing the week before. And I know he's been, he was horrendous at the Masters, and I know Jake's already thrown out all the numbers, but for me, you mentioned it as well, Huss. The greens here are small, they're undulated, and they're going to be tough pin placement. So you need a guy who's going to be great around the greens and a guy who's not afraid to make a ballsy chip or a ballsy approach. And that is Jordan Spieth's game. I think we can see some Spieth magic here. It's going to be a roller coaster. It's not going to be, from him leading from start to finish. We're going to see ups and downs, but that is the emotional roller coaster that is betting Jordan Spieth. I'm here for it. I'm in. I think it's either going to be he's right there near the finish or he's going to miss the cut. But that's the Jordan Spieth experience. Now, Huss, we'll go back to you now. What's your mid-tier bet? Give us maybe one or two who you think in that next echelon of guys that can win here.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I've got two longer shots and one real bomb. And let's start off with Sam Burns. I was sort of stunned that he was that they were hanging a 50-1 number on him. And he's a guy that might not be a household name to very casual golf fans that have just seen the majors, because it's not like he has been a monster in major championships so far. But he won last year. He's got a couple this year so far. And to me, he should be in a category just south of the guys that we mentioned in the 20s and mid-20s numbers. So, I mean, again, it goes back to the PGA. It is a perfect opportunity for guys like Burns to really kind of step up and announce themselves as real contenders amongst the top players in the world. Certainly look at the world rankings, the FedEx Cup standings. He should be far in excess of what he's getting right now at 50-1. So I love the value on Sam Burns, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do in these first 2 days and hopefully put himself into a position to win on the weekend. And then two other guys at numbers I just couldn't stay away from. You knew I was going to drop a Tony Finau bet in this podcast, boys. And it's 65-1. The way Tony's played over the course of the last month, it wasn't a great start to the season for him, but certainly he's picked it up over the last month. I think that, you know, a lot of his training, a lot of his mental focus has been geared towards the major championships now that he got that monkey off his back last year at the Northern Trust. And listen, you got to be able to hit it far in this on this course, 7,500 yards. The length of Tony Finau, I think, is going to be really, really helpful to him. And his iron game seems to be pretty dialed in. So I love Tony Finau in this. I'll probably place him in, you know, a top 5, a top 10 bet, which we'll get to later. But at 65-1, that was a number I couldn't stay away from. And a guy that I mentioned earlier, I mean, this is my longest shot of an outright, is Mark Leishman. And Leishman wasn't very good last weekend, but he's an experienced player. He's been to these majors before. He's contended in majors before. And I think he'll be up to the task and maybe take advantage of the conditions to give him a bit of a boost over some of the field, as we mentioned, with what we're expecting weather-wise. At 100-1, I love the value on Mark Leishman. So first guy I jumped on was Burns. Couldn't stay away from Tony Finau. And at a triple-digit number, Mark Leishman's getting a touch on the card as well.
Again, a couple of names sounding familiar on my card. So, Jake, before we get to mine, we'll get to yours. Who's in your mid-tier to long bomb, long shots?
Yeah, I didn't really have a mid-tier. I got a more longer shot guy. But if I'm looking at the mid-tier just right now, I'd love to go Brooks. He just really hasn't been himself like we've seen him be back in 2018 and then maybe 2019 when he was on that pretty great run at majors. Then I look at a guy like Will Zalatoris, 35-1. Seems to be a big-time performer. He had a T6 at this year's Masters, T8 last year's PGA. It doesn't always show up at every tournament, but it seems like these big tournaments, he's got his name up there in the top 10 area. So I wouldn't mind him at 35-1. My long shot that I'm looking at, though, 80-1, Cam Young. This guy's second in strokes gained off the tee. He's trying to get a couple good starts, 2 top 5s in his last 2 starts. I don't know. It could be a guy we see in the mix come Sunday. Not really a household name, I'd say, by any means, but I don't know. I kind of have an underlying theme here that we're going to touch on later. But, yeah, I got the American Cam Young at plus 8,000 at Coolbet.
Little bit of a spoiler for some of our exotics coming up a little bit later. If you're watching now, scrolling through the odds, you can find all of those at Coolbet as well. It's not just outrights. It's not just top 10s head-to-head. There's a lot more, especially when it comes to our major events. It's the big ones, right? And we will have our boosted odds parlay as well coming up. Stay tuned for that. We're going to do a make the cut parlay. So we've each picked a couple of guys. We've put it together. That will be the last thing we talk about. But some of my longer
that one, by the way, at the Masters, including Bryson DeChambeau to miss the cut. I think we got, was it 8 or 9-1 on that number? So I'm looking forward to seeing what we have it. I'm not sure we had any juicy numbers as far as like a Bryson to miss the cut. Obviously, his situation very different with the injury, but let's go 2 for 2 on that one, gentlemen.
Yes, absolutely. Not as big as last time, but still something to get the juices flowing. I like it. We'll get to that in a bit. I got to finish off my card for my outrights as well. I'm going with Shane Lowry, 35-1. And in his last 20 rounds, he's 2.88 strokes gained per round. I believe Scotty Scheffler, the best player on the planet, is the only one who has better numbers at that. He came in third in the Masters, third at the RBC the very next week, and then also earlier this year, a second place finish at the Honda Classic. In 6 stroke play events in the US this year, he hasn't finished lower than 13th. And honestly, you can say he has been one of the best golfers on the planet. He's won a major before. He's a big time player. And at 35-1, I'm an Irishman. I had to back the Irish lad. I am going with Shane Lowry. My big long bomb, and this is another guy that I've hitched my wagon to a little bit, hasn't got me money on outrights yet, but always the top 20s, the top 10s. You know he's going to be on my card a little bit later, but it's Taylor Gooch. We've already talked about ad nauseum how important short game is going to be at this tournament and at Southern Hills. And he's been great. He's 7th in stroke gains around the green. He's 21st in stroke gains approached. And he's already got a tour win under his belt this season. And guys, you know, I'm an absolute sucker when it comes to storylines at these events. He's Mr. Oklahoma. He's a former Oklahoma State Cowboy. His hometown is just a couple of hours outside Tulsa. I absolutely love this bet. He's going to be littered throughout my card. And I know he missed the cut last week at the Byron Nelson, but I'm expecting a big bounce back. Ride him, Cowboys. Let's go, Gooch. 125-1. Let's ride that one.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Speaking of other OSU Cowboys, Ricky Fowler sure could use a win or just a strong performance. I think he's 125th on the FedEx Cup. I don't think he's got a tour card for next year. And who knows? Maybe he just goes to the Live Tour and makes huge money and doesn't have to compete against the best. And then Matthew Wolff as well at 125-1. If you do want to get a little bit of narrative of guys that would know that course, that area, I do sort of think that there is a bit of an advantage for the guys, Oklahoma and the Texas guys as well. Scotty Scheffler mentioned it, Jordan Spieth. I mean, the guys that grew up playing, you know, we often talk about the OU and Texas rivalry in football. It's real in golf as well. They play each other all season long. These guys have been playing these courses and, of course, like Southern Hills many times before. So there will be a little bit of experience for guys that played a little bit of college golf or grew up in that area, I think for sure.
There's no doubt about that. And also Victor Hovland as well. Our guy, believe it or not, he's not on my card. This is the first major. And I think
he's winning for sure.
He's 1000% winning. And he's a former OSU Cowboy. So that's going to sting so bad when he wins.
And the Hovland number at Coolbet is insane. I saw him at 18-1 earlier. It's 27-1 now on Coolbet. So listen, if you're shopping around, make sure to hit the site before you do anything. I think you'll know where you should be putting your fin down for your favorite golfer going into the Thursday morning.
And I will say, while we're on the topic of OSU, they have the best logo in NCAA golf. It's Pistol Pete swinging a club, and it is unbelievable. It is so cool. I've been trying to get a hat with that logo on it for so long. So if someone can send us a link of that, I will buy it. I don't care what the dollar figure is. I'm going to buy it because it's an absolute sweet logo. But that's enough about OSU. We've talked about them for too long. I know Jake being a Pig Suey fan. I know they're not true rivals. They're not in the SEC, but they're still in the South. They don't like each other. So we'll move on. Let's go to our top 10 bets. And Jake, give us a couple of do you have a couple? What do you like here?
Yeah, I got a couple. I got Justin Thomas. Guy's a top 10 machine. 5 of his last 7 starts, including a T8 at Augusta. He's been in the top 10. So, hard to avoid that. Plus 165 number. Just feel like he's a guy that's always right there. I would love him to break through and win a major here, but I don't know. We'll see. Top 10, I think that's a good spot for JT. And then I also have Cam Smith. You guys talked ad nauseum about him already. He's taking a little time off for rest, but I think after that Masters kind of fall apart on Sunday, I think he'll bounce back. He'll have a good tournament. I wouldn't be surprised seeing his name in the top 10 by the end of the weekend. I don't know if we're going to get to top 5s. I have one of those as well. Morikawa, plus 400. Seems like another guy who tends to be in the mix when it comes to major time. He's 10th in strokes gained off the tee and 8th in strokes gained approaching the green. So hopefully he can keep the greens and regulation going and put together a good couple rounds here at Southern Hills. So those are my kind of 3 in the top 5, top 10 area there.
Huss, do you have a top 5 or a top 10 that you like? I mean, I do ask, of course, obviously.
I do. And you know, the top 10s, I sort of gravitate to guys that I think that can win, that have a pretty good chance, because usually the numbers are a little bit lower. I'll start with the top 5s though. And it's guys that I've mentioned before. Tony Finau, his top result in every major championship is top 5 or better. I mean, we can give him a hard time on not winning more and having the opportunities that have slipped through his fingers. But I'll tell you what, I mean, for a 9-1 bet, Tony Finau on a course like this to finish in the top 5, I thought was amazing value. And that was the first bet that I made when we got out of the outrights. And then Cam Smith is the other guy that I'm putting in at a top 5. He's at 4-1 plus 400. You know, he finished tied for second at the Masters. He's got a 4th place finished in the US Open. And ironically, the PGA is the event that he hasn't had much success at. His best finish is 25th. But the way he's playing right now is a completely different player. I really do think that he contends. And, you know, history will tell us that when he's contending, he's right there on Sunday afternoon. So Tony at 9-1, Cam Smith at 4-1 for my top 5s. And then the top 10s sort of echo the outrights. But Scotty Scheffler is at plus 135. I would be shocked if he wasn't in the top 10, to be perfectly honest, the way he's playing right now.
That seems like free money.
You know what? It does. And then the other guy is Cantlay. And listen, Cantlay, I think there's a much better chance that, you know, maybe he doesn't have a first good couple days and, you know, we're not really talking about him. But as I said, I mean, he's a guy that I think that has a very good chance of winning the event. And a 2-1 for a top 10. I think there's some value there, and I'll be backing him there. Although the investment really is on, you know, hitting it out of the park with the 22-1. So Scheffler plus 135 and Cantlay plus 200, a little more conservative top 10s. I'm really going to go for it with Tony 9-1 and Cam Smith 4-1 in the top 5 category.
Top 5, top 10, Tony, man. It's automatic, and I love it. And, hey, you got the value there. Take it. Why not? Absolutely, 100%. I'll probably be joining you at this point now. I'm surprised I haven't already, to be quite honest. I already mentioned one of my bets with the top 20 with Taylor Gooch. And then I'll get to one of my other top 10 bets a little bit later because it kind of ties in with one of my exotics. But my 2 other top 10s, we talked about him a little bit. Rory McIlroy, at a top 10 at plus 165. And historically, we know since he's won this tournament back in 2014, he has not been great. His last time he finished within the top 10 was back in 2019, where in typical Rory fashion, it was a Sunday where he backdoored his way into the top 10. He almost missed the cut. But he has certainly started to find his game. He just hasn't been able to put a full round together. Again, the themes, the storylines, they continue. As we've already talked about it at length, short game is going to be huge. And since January 1st, Rory is ranked number 1 in stroke gained around the green. He's 3rd in stroke gained off the tee. And overall scoring strokes gained, he's in 5th. So obviously, he clearly, when he puts it together, he's on. When he's not on his game, we know how quickly it can fall apart for Rory. But with that being said, he can quickly tie things together. And that's why we've seen so many times at these tournaments, if he starts slow, he may be out of it to win the tournament, but we always see him slowly climb and find his way into that top 10 leaderboard. It's a Sunday and out of nowhere earlier in the day, you're like, wait, Rory's in the top 10 again? How did this happen? Well, backdoor Rory, that's what he does time in and time out. Would it shock me if he wins this thing and completes the career Grand Slam? Absolutely not. I didn't love his number. I love Rory. So I wanted to get a little bit of action on him. So I went with the top 10 at plus 165. My other bet, Max Homa, top 10 and top 20, actually. Top 10, he's plus 500, and top 20, plus 210. In 14 events this season, he's made the top 10 3 times, including 2 victories, one of them coming last month. And he finished just out of the top 10 at the Players Championship, which was a very, very difficult field. And he's finished, in top 20 in half of his starts this season. Of course, the thing that does concern me, he has not been very good at major events. His best finish at a major event is T40, but he's been playing the best golf of his life. He's been absolutely dialed. Every time it seems like we're saying, oh, he's playing the best golf of his life. A couple months later, he's playing. It's just he continues to get better and better. He's playing with confidence, and I absolutely love it. He's an awesome guy. He's a great follow, and I'm addicted to betting him, so I'm going at top 10 and top 20.
Yeah, just quickly on Rory.
Positive vibe for Max.
Yeah,
positive vibes.
Yeah, listen, gotta love Max. He's the king of Twitter. Just a great dude. The guy that you want to cheer for. I have been off Rory for a couple of years, and I'm fully accepting the fact that one of these days he's going to just reemerge as the Rory that we remember and win the tournament. We've kind of gone through our reasons for picking other guys. You can't pick everyone, but listen, if we see Rory McIlroy, and Rory, I don't know if you heard his press conferences earlier this week, but he was lamenting, his start at Augusta. I mean, he finished second by 3 strokes. On the first day, he was 3 over on 10 and 11 in the first round. Mm-hmm. I mean, you par those holes, you play a little more conservatively and get out with any damage. Pars are okay. And, I think he's learning some lessons the hard way over the last little bit. So I'm not on Rory, but if you cash that ticket, or we're talking about Rory McIlroy going head to head with one of these other stars on Sunday afternoon at Southern Hills, I won't be surprised in the least.
All right. Anything else for top 20s or anything else on the board? Are we ready to roll into our...
I got 2 top 20s. One of them I mentioned already, Mark Leishman. I got a bit of a bomb on him at 100-1, but I do like him at 4-1 for top 20. Leishman's a consistently top player that can contend in pretty much any venue. But as we mentioned, what we expect the weather to be and how these players are going to need to control the wind. I think that might separate a guy like Leishman from much of the rest of the crowd. And even if he doesn't win, I think it'll give him a good chance to go top 20. And the same number and the same sort of reason is on Gary Woodland. Gary Woodland at 4-1 for top 20, I think is great value. And Gary's quietly had a really awesome year. Listen, he did miss the cut at the Masters, and he missed the cut at Wells Fargo in his last event. But other than that, he was 24th in Mexico. He was 8th at the Valero. He was 5th at the Arnold Palmer, and he was 5th at the Honda. So he has contended. He has played well. And if you think back to his U.S. Open win, I believe it was at Pebble, I mean, that was all about the win. This is a guy from Wichita, Kansas, grew up playing in the middle of these wide open fields like we have here in the prairies. I think he's perfectly, his game and what he does well is perfectly fit to sort of handle and survive Southern Hills. And depending on what this weather does, I think it could be a war of attrition. Guys like Gary Woodland fit very well into that. I'll have a nice chunk on a 4-1 Gary Woodland top 20, along with Mark Leishman.
Love it. Absolutely love it. What else do we love is our exotics and our head-to-head. And Huss, I know you have a pretty big card when it comes to that. So before we get to you, Jake, any exotics or any other plays that you like?
Yeah, I had a couple top 20s as well, a little shorter than Huss's. I had Xander. He's got 4 top 20s in his last 6 starts. When he misses the cut, it's no good. But when he does make the cut, he's in the top 20. 3rd, a 13th, a missed cut, a 12th, a missed cut, and a 5th in his last 6 starts. So, I mean, if he makes the cut, I'm going to feel a lot better about that bet, obviously. And then Zalatoris, I talked about it a little earlier. I don't think I have to say too much about him. He's just the type of guy that I see up on the leaderboard at a few recent majors, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there again. So I got him at plus 145 for a top 20. I know we're going to get into the make the cut stuff, and we got that one that I know we both like. So I'll let you kind of lead us into what we got here for exotics.
All right, Huss, you're up.
All right, so we've got some interesting group bets. If you go to Coolbet, and essentially it's groups of 5, and you're essentially playing a little mini tournament within those 5 players. I'm taking 2, and I'm going to go with the guy that Jake just mentioned, Xander Schauffele, for Group C. It's Hideki and Xander at plus 275, Lowry at plus 375, Zalatoris plus 415, and Neiman at plus 435. I've been a big Zalatoris guy. He disappointed me last week. I thought that might be a breakout for him. Did not play very well. Don't even think he made the weekend. So I sort of backed off a little bit on him. We'll see if that costs me. To me, it came down to the top 3. And I really do think that Xander is going to show why he is one of the most well-rounded players in the game. I like Xander to win Group C at plus 275. And then we've also got Group D here. Matty Fitzpatrick, Matt Homa, Daniel Berger, Corey Connors, and Tony Finau. Finau's the longest number in the group at plus 375. So considering I'm banging on him for the top 5 and got an outright on him, we're back in big time with Tony Finau, and we're going to take him at plus 375. Now, 3 other of the events, you do have the top American, top European. I always love, and I don't know why I bet a lot and focus a lot on the Asian golfers, but I do feel I've always got a bit of a feel for the top Asian category in these events. And listen, I'm going straight to the guy at the top of the board, and it's Hideki Matsuyama at plus 165. Sungjae Im's not in this tournament, and I think Sungjae Im would clearly be the guy that would be the biggest threat to Hideki at this event. You have to go all the way to Siwoo Kim at 5-1, and KH Lee, of course, who won last week at 7-1. Not even familiar with many of the other guys. So I think with the distance that you need, the all-around game at Southern Hills, I think Hideki is the class of this group. And speaking of free money bets, you can get Hideki at minus 143 to be the top Japanese golfer in the event. You got Kenyana at 6-1, Hoshino 6-1, Kinoshito. I mean, I don't even know who these other guys are. So Hideki Matsuyama at minus 143. If you want to maybe have a nice safe one to make up for another few more aggressive wagers elsewhere, I like Hideki as top Japanese and top Asian. And the final one, and I know there is a special, you can maybe speak to it for the Canadians.
Yep.
I'm actually going to go to the long shot here. Mac Hughes at plus 325 to win. I like Mac Hughes' length. I like his consistency so far. He's played well as of late, and he now has the experience playing in these big fields against these top players. And listen, I'm a huge Corey Connors fan, but I think that, Mac off the tee, I think that's really going to help him in this event more than it might others that really focus on the great ball strikers, which probably Corey Connors and Adam Hadwin would have the knack on him here. But, at the number of plus 325, I'm jumping on Mac for top Canadian as well. So I got a little Hideki on the top Asian and top Japanese, and we'll see what's up with the Canadians. I'm looking for a big weekend for Mackenzie Hughes playing into Sunday and taking the top Canuck.
Well, it's finally here. It finally happened. We're going head-to-head because I like Corey Connors to be the top Canuck. I know it's chalky, but at minus 128, I love the value. He's top 10 in greens and reg, 5th in stroke gained off the tee, and he's top 20 in tee to green. And he's just been so consistent over the last couple of years, but especially since March, he has 4 top 25 finishes in stroke play events and even had that top 3 place in the WGC match play. We know how good he plays at Augusta. Like, if you want to talk about majors, like, he is really becoming a great major player, especially there. But he's been great at this tournament and at the Open as well. 2 top 20 finishes last year. I know Adam Hadwin is having a great year, but he's really starting to cool off with a couple of back-to-pass missed cuts. And agree with you as well. Obviously, Mackenzie Hughes started off really slow, but he's starting to heat up. But for me, I like the best Canadian here in this. There's only 3 as well, so that's why I thought these odds would have been a little bit lower. Like I thought you would have got him maybe at minus 150, 160, but to get him at minus 128, I absolutely love the bet. And I think Corey Conners is going to be the low Canadian, but I also do have a top 10 bet for him as well.
Beautiful. Well, we'll see what happens. That probably pretty much assures that Adam Hadwin's going to run away with the top Canadian with you on one side and me on the other. Jake, you might want to jump on that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to take Adam Hadwin. No, I'm just kidding, guys. I didn't have a ton of exotics, but I'm looking just at the list here, and I know Huss covered a ton of them. Top Skin and Avian, we talked about him already. Vic Hovland is minus 135. All he's got to beat is Norn, Hogard, and Stenson. I don't mind that number there, minus 135. Obviously, he is the chalk on the board there, but he's got to beat 3 guys, and he probably, I mean, he's the biggest household name, I'd say, from that group. Stenson's a little older, and Norn, Hogard, we'll see what happens there, but I don't mind that. Hovland minus 135 is the top Scandinavian. I think Huss covered nearly every other one on the list here. Ton of group winners and Canadian as well.
I know you do have a bet that I like as well. Maybe you can touch on that one. The winner, where the winner comes from.
Yeah, so this one caught my eye, winning nationality. And I saw US was at minus 143, obviously the chalk again, but I don't know, I just have a hard time not taking that just where it is. It's not too juicy to the point where it's like not really worth the value, but you got a ton of top Americans. It was kind of my underlying theme of the guys I picked. I think I had one non-American out of all my picks. I mean, we got obviously Rory, Rahm up there.
You have 5 of the top 7
going to be up there, but
exactly.
Yeah, I think it's 6 straight years PGA Championship has been won by an American. Just based on that alone, I'm pretty happy taking USA minus 143 winning nationality. I think Pat, you'll probably touch on it a bit too.
Yeah, and the last time there was someone not from the United States of America to win was Jason Day back in 2015, and Rory won in 2014. But even then, you saw another run of Americans. So this tournament, they usually pick the American style of courses. Southern Hills, we talked about it. There's a lot of players that are from the South that are familiar with this course or the way the courses are laid out. So I like it too. I don't normally make bets, less than 135 when it comes to golf outrights. But this one here, it just really attracted my eye. And I'm with you as well. Like Scheffler, Thomas, Spieth, Cantlay, Morikawa, Schauffele, DJ, the list goes on. I think you're getting, it's crazy to say because it is at almost 150, but I think you're getting pretty solid value with that bet.
What about a hole in one?
I mean,
yes, minus 104. Yeah. No, minus 122. Will there be a hole in one? That's always a fun bet to go. If you bet the no, you're just sitting there waiting for bad news for basically the entire 4 days. But it is interesting. I mean, sometimes, you'll see, a bigger discrepancy between a yes and a no at an event like this. I think the bottom line is normally it wouldn't be as high as it is. But the fact that you have just such an incredible field of ball strikers, and even with the wind, even on a couple days, I mean, you still have those rounds. Huge advantage for no if it's blowing a big time on Thursday and Friday, because by the time you get to the weekend, half the field won't be playing. But that's always an interesting one if you want to get something just completely off the board to kind of follow over the course of the event. And 4-1 for a playoff too is an interesting prop as well.
Man, my card's going to be like 4 pages long now. This is not going to be good. This is not going to be good. But Huss, you did mention a couple of Canadian specials, so some Canadian content flair. Any Canadian to win. So the 3 names that we already mentioned, Hughes, Connors, Hadwin. If you think just a guy from north of the border is going to win, you can get that at plus 6,000. And then another one of our partners with Maple Leads and Luke Gazik, he has a little special here. Corey Connors and Adam Hadwin, both to make the cut. And that one pays exclusively at Coolbet Canada at plus 150. So that's a bet that I certainly like. I know I mentioned that Hadwin has missed 2 cuts in a row, but before that, like, he has more top 5 and top 10 finishes than Corey Connors does this year. It's just he's kind of starting to slow down a little bit. So I like that bet a lot. And then I guess before we get to our Coolbet Canada podcast special, let's get into the cuts, and then we can get into our to make the cut parlay. So, Jake, I know you've got a couple to make the cuts, and I know you've got one that's going to make me and Huss very happy.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going to keep playing this guy to miss the cut until he doesn't miss the cut again. Bryson DeChambeau at even money to miss the cut. I don't know. Like this guy, he hasn't proven he can make a cut in recent starts. I don't know if he's healthy. It's just up in the air with this guy. He hasn't played a lot of golf, hasn't played since the Masters where he did miss the cut. Won us that. I think we actually got that 11-1, Huss.
11-1. You're right. That was huge.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest piece of it by far.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a big one. So, yeah, I'm just going to take him on his own, plus even money to miss the cut here. I got some make the cuts that we'll talk about, I think, in our little combined bet. But you mentioned it to me earlier, like off the show, Pat. Tiger at -118 to make. I mean, it's Tiger, right? Like, how are you not going to bet him to at least make the cut? We want to see him there playing on Saturday and Sunday. So -118, I think that's pretty solid value. I think he's got to be healthier than he was at the Masters.
He says he is.
And I don't know. Hopefully, experience on its own can get him to the weekend. So yeah, Tiger -118. I like that. I like that play as well.
Yeah, and the walk at Southern Hills is not. I mean, from anyone that's been to Augusta, I mean, the walk and what that takes out of an average, normal, healthy guy, never mind someone coming off on a reconstructed leg, very different than what they'll be handling in Oklahoma right now. So I think that does bode well for Tiger. I'm with you on Bryson. I actually had not gone that far down and seen him there, but now that you're putting a plus sign for him to miss the cut, I mean, he just had hand surgery. He's been tweeting out pictures of his hand. He said he's basically been barely able to grip a club. I was expecting that would be a much, much chalkier number on the miss than going forward. And again, it's our favorite bet to make and cheer for or against in this case. Just a couple guys that I had. I mean, the two guys that I had for top 20s, Gary Woodland and Mark Leishman are both -154 to make the cut. I do like those numbers. Abe Answer is another guy that I think will probably be playing the weekend, although I didn't put him in any of my top ones. I'm not sure whether he truly contends. But as far as picking off a guy to miss, the only guy I'd like to cash more than Bryson DeChambeau would be Patrick Reed at +115, but he's too good. I think he does make the cut, so I'm going to stay away from him. I certainly won't be betting on Reed. I'll just be cheering against him and hopefully be kicking myself for not betting that +115 for him to miss the cut if he does.
I had no cuts on my original card. I've added Bryson to miss the cut. Mark that down as an official play. And I'm going to add Tiger Woods to make the cut because to me, he's playing with Spieth and he's playing with Rory. There is no way that competitor is going to allow himself not to play well beside those two guys with all the crowd surround. Like he is not going to allow. He will crawl his way through the entire course before he allows that to happen. So, and we talked about this off air, Jake, like to win, to finish top 20, like I don't know how much his body and his leg can last, but give me 2 solid days of golf to make that cut. And if he falls off a cliff and really does not play as well, I'm okay with that. But at this point in his career, if you're cheering against Tiger Woods, you've got a big dump in your pants. So I'm going to take him to make the cut. I don't have the cojones to bet anything more than that, but that's a fun bet. If he misses, he misses, but just that fiery competitor that we know in Tiger, he's not going to allow that to happen with those two guys beside him. So let's get into our Coolbet Canada podcast special to make the cut parlay. Last time it was what, 11-1?
11-1.
Yep.
Easy.
Big one.
Easy money. This time,
hold on, it wasn't easy money. I think Mac Hughes ended up making a birdie out of the fairway bunker on 18 to just squeeze in.
It was dead. There's no way.
It was dead. It was dead.
Quickly,
no way.
Guys, I've got to tell you this. I mean, we were following this along, and I saw it, and I was so pissed off because he missed the putt. He missed about a 6-footer on 17 to go one above the cut line. And I'm like, I can't believe him. We were sweating this out for a couple hours on the Friday. And I was putting off going out to meet some buddies. And I'm like, he put it in the bunker. And I'm like, I cannot believe that this is how it ended. And I left and I was getting out of the elevator into my car. And Jake texts, "Are you kidding me?" Like the whole thing. I'm like, wait, what? And that shot that he made, in addition to making all of us some money, as well as anyone that jumped on with us at Coolbet, was the most clutch shot. I mean, he literally put it to 5 or 6 feet from a fairway bunker on the 18th hole at Augusta National. And then after just missing a putt, made the one that he really needed. So listen, I'm feeling even better. You reminded me more good vibes for Mac and that plus 325 for top Canadian.
I'm shaking my boots now. Shaking my boots now. There's nothing more electric, sweat-inducing, degenerate move than having your phone out and just following the PGA Live app. And because obviously Hughes was not getting any TV coverage, so we had to follow him that way. And you're refreshing and you're seeing spraying the ball in a bunker, and we're like, it's over, it's done. And then you see the shot and you can't believe it. And then the replay comes up on the TV and you can believe it. There's just nothing better.
Well, that's exactly what I did when I got that text from you guys. Luckily, as much as I don't like a lot of things about the Masters starting the bloody TV coverage at 2:00, they've made up all for it by making the greatest app in the history of the internet. Yeah. That app for the Masters is so far beyond almost anything else in sports when it comes to on demand with the amount. And I know that they'll be doing similar things for the PGA, but they have set the bar so high. And hopefully just from a viewer standpoint, we continue to see improvements for these other events. Of course, each one is run by a different group. This is PGA of America. It's the RNA for the Open Championship. It's the USGA. I mean, it's not just one, body. It's not the PGA Tour that does all of these things. Right. So it is different. I'm looking forward to seeing what the PGA has, but there's nothing better than that Masters app. Man, it would be great if we could get that sort of coverage and service for golf fans and bettors week in and week out on tour.
Hashtag grow the game. That's what they're looking to do. And we're looking to grow the game and grow people's pockets, fill it up with money with our to make the cut parlay. So here's who we've got: Corey Connors, Tony Finau, Tommy Fleetwood, who we haven't talked about yet too much, Max Homa, and Billy Horschel, all to make the cut. Put that together exclusively at Coolbet. You're getting it at plus 625. Boys, how do you feel about that one? Huss, you go first.
I love it. I mean, because obviously, we know where I'm at on Tony Finau. I'm a big Max Homa guy, and I think he's playing very well. I mean, I think he makes the cut, and we're talking about him on the weekend. And I'll just mention this on Tommy Fleetwood. I mean, Fleetwood historically has been very good in majors. He's contended against the best in the world. And going back to what we think might be challenging win conditions, as a guy that, grew up in England playing in those sort of things, I mean, that almost plays into his hands. So those are the three guys. Obviously, we talked about Corey Connors, and we haven't talked about Billy Ho, but Billy Ho's a player that, is as consistent as most on the PGA Tour. I would imagine could certainly hit it far, has the game that should work at Southern Hills. So I certainly don't have the heebie-jeebies about seeing Billy Ho on the parlay.
My two picks were Connors and Homa, and I know you liked Homa as well. I love Fleetwood, so I was going to agree with that. And then Connors, obviously, I mentioned. But Jake, your pick was Horschel. I was kind of surprised off the hop, but then you made a pretty darn good case for it.
Yeah, just some things that stand out to you. Obviously, we were looking at make the cut parlays, and you and I talked a little bit about Brooks, and I'm just not sure with him. And then I saw Horschel, second longest consecutive cuts made streak on tour, 17 in a row now. I mean, that's as consistent as you get. So he was a guy I kind of fought for over Brooks, and I think it's a good. I mean, on its own, minus 233 is pretty crazy considering that consecutive cuts made streak. But I don't know, like Huss said, it's a consistent guy and someone I fought for to make this parlay. Hopefully he's not the one that screws us. That's all I hope for, because I did push a little harder, and I'm sitting there as I'm messaging Pat about it. I'm like, no, I want a Horschel. And then now I'm thinking like, oh God, he's going to be the one that ends up.
Hey, you know what? I love the thinking. I mean, hey, he was second at Bay Hill. You know, he's made all the cuts this year. And even when he was hurt at the Players, he still made the cut and withdrew during the third round when things got bad for him. So, listen, you don't need to you need to convince us, Billy Ho. You're welcome on the squad. All you do is make cuts. That's all we need from you this weekend.
Yep. Get on the Coolbet Canada podcast wagon. You can get that at the specials tab, the Coolbet parlays. You'll find it there. You'll also find any of the other partner parlays that we do have at Coolbet. And of course, we mentioned the 2 other specials for the PGA Championship. Huss, I know you got to run. Winnipeg Sports Talk humming up here. No Jets going on, obviously. Didn't make the playoffs, but what are you guys talking about this week?
Barry Trotz, 24/7, boys. We're offering him. We're getting all of our sponsors. We've got a new garage door ready for him. We've got water services for Barry. Listen, a lot of people pretty excited about that. He interviewed with the Winnipeg Jets yesterday. He is the choice, not only because he's one of the best coaches in NHL history. He's also a Manitoban, understands this market, has always come back, does, speaking engagements and clinics here. So it would just be a marriage too good to be true. And all the stench of the season that the Jets just had and the erosion of some of the confidence of the fan base would change in a second if they get that done. But obviously there'll be a number of other players in on Barry Trotz. So we'll see what happens with that. CFL and CFLPA need to figure it out. Yeah. Jake Thomas, who's a spokesperson for the PA, is going to come and join us. Murat Atesh from The Athletic. And we'll also talk a little more PGA. One of my oldest friends and a guy I love talking with golf as much as any, Jeff Feinberg's going to jump on the program. So we have a very packed show beginning at 1 o'clock Central. If you haven't checked it out before, just go onto YouTube, type in Winnipeg Sports Talk. Join us in about half an hour from now and be a regular. Hit that red subscribe button and join us, just like you should hit the red subscribe button on the Coolbet Canada YouTube page and all of their social channels.
Of course, and do the same for the Lock Shop as well. We had a Monday edition, so you can go back. Huss gave out some of his picks. Dustin also gave out some of his picks as well, and I think he's in Toronto right now trying to make sure that we get a CFL season.
Yeah, exactly. But he's intervening. He's intervening right now, Dusty. Although he, of course, has been – Pat Steinberg's popping on, my old pal from 960 in Calgary, too, to get ready for the Battle of Alberta tonight. Yep. It's killing Dusty not to be there right now, but he'll just miss the one game and he'll be back. I'm actually thinking about maybe making an impromptu trip out there for the long weekend. I mean, whether it's going to be garbage around here, even if we don't go to the game, just the atmosphere in both Calgary and Edmonton and everywhere in between for this series is going to be – well, nothing like we've seen in Jake's life, to be perfectly honest with you, speaking of long-time things. So it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. 31 years in the making, the Battle of Alberta. So we'll get to all of that. But I'll tell you what, there's going to be some major couch or bar top time watching and following all these selections that we put on the card. And it's been a good couple of weeks. Listen, KH Lee, the minute KH Lee came in at 100-1, I knew there was going to be maybe some extra wagers made this week because of where we're at. And hopefully it'll come through. But there's nothing I would love more than to be talking about Tony Finau winning a damn major next week at 65-1 and everything else we've got in. But could it be Scheffler? Could it be John Rahm, the one guy none of us picked? Very possibly. Bottom line is the PGA Championship's unbelievable. It doesn't get the credit maybe of some of the other majors because of the history of it. Probably has the best trophy in the Wanamaker, and it certainly has the best field. So buckle up. It's going to be great. Get your bets in. Set your lineups before tee off tomorrow morning at Southern Hills in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Well, we know it's going to be a new champion. They're the defending champion.
Phil.
Isn't he here?
I was just thinking that.
I didn't even get to it because that would have to be an episode on its own. We can talk about it another time. But
one of the greatest falls from grace in sports history. God. It's inconceivable that we're sitting here talking about Tiger Woods, and Phil, the defending champion, is essentially persona non grata in North American golf right now. It's sad, to be honest with you. And I know Shipnuck's book just came out. Feinberg just texted me. He was just listening to the first chapter right now on an audio book. So you'll probably start getting a lot of information on that. We actually had Bob Herrig on Winnipeg Sports Talk last week, I want to say, or the week before. He's just got a new book out on Tiger and Phil and the greatest rivalry in golf over the last 25 years or so. Check that out if you're so inclined. Another great read. But we're not going to be talking about Phil as much this week. We'll be missing him, but it's going to be about the guys that are teeing it up tomorrow at Southern Hills, an incredible golf course, a great venue for this 2022 PGA Championship.
Well, I'm fired up. Let's just tee it off now. I can't wait. It all starts Thursday morning, Southern Hills, great golf course. It was a great time chatting with you guys, getting our picks out. Of course, we will be tweeting out our picks. So if you missed the show, you started live, you can also go back or you can listen it wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, but we'll be giving out our picks as well. And I imagine there's going to be some live bet sprinkles going on as well. So follow us. You see the names on the bottom with the handles there. Give us a follow. Give us a follow on all social media at Coolbet Canada. And of course, as always, you want to hit that subscribe button, whether it's podcast, YouTube, you name it. Follow us. You get a notification every time we go live or post a show. So for everyone here at Coolbet Canada, we want to thank you for tuning in to another betting preview show. I'm Pat Gregoire. He's Jake Bolin Moss, and he is Andrew Hustler Paterson. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the golf this weekend.
Good luck, everyone.